Hey YouTubers, I'm Sai and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I've been reading once again and I came across an article in GQ of 10 of the richest men of all time. And guess what? There's no mention of Jeff at all.
My name is Jeff.
No, not that Jeff. I mean Jeff Bezos. In fact, some of the people in this article almost make Jeff seem as though he's an average Joe. Now in the article they use US dollars as the currency for measuring the wealth. And then if we take net worth to mean your total assets minus your liabilities. So essentially your savings, the value of your house and your pensions plus any other assets that you have minus any debt that you have against them. Now that will be your net worth. And then according to the Federal Reserve survey of consumer finances, they said that the average net worth of a US family was $692,100. Now, if we look at the median value of the 50th percentile, the value is actually $97,300. Now, this is due to the fact that the uber wealthy end up skewing the average. So in order to make the maths later on in this video really easy, let's just take the average Joe's net worth to be $100,000. So then that basically means that at one point this year, Jeff Bezos was worth around 2 million average Joes when his net worth hit $200 billion. Now since then, the stock market has fluctuated. So currently I think he sits a little below that now. But this video is all about who those 10 people are who make Jeff seem like an average Joe. So before we jump into the good stuff, while you watch the intro video, make sure that you smash that like button until it turns blue, as it makes YouTube feel more inclined to recommend this video to lots of other people. So in at number 10 is Muammar Gaddafi, the longtime ruler of Libya, who reportedly had a net worth of $200 billion, or you could say one Jeff Bezos or 2 million average Joe's worth. Now the controversial Gaddafi took advantage of his political power by living like a king off the backs of his people, where the vast majority of his staggering wealth was held in accounts owned by the government of Libya, which Gaddafi brutally ruled over for 42 years. And as Gaddafi's power began to weaken, some of this so-called personal fortune was frozen by various governments, including the US, to prevent Gaddafi from making a desperate grab for his cash. But it was quite clear that Gaddafi squeezed all he could out of the Libyan people in order to support his lavish lifestyle. Now moving on to number 9 on the list. This is someone who lived quite some time ago, back in 1028 to 1087, and this was William the Conqueror. Now he supposedly amassed $229.5 billion, which is about 1.14 Jeff Bezos's or 2.295 average Joe's. Now, William was the first Norman ruler of England, who famously invaded England back in 1066, where he seized the land and stole all kinds of treasures from Sussex to Yorkshire, which helped him amass a wealth that would be valued at more than $228 billion in today's money. On to number 8 on the list. This is someone who is alive a little more closer to present day, but still before the time of most of the viewers on this channel. This person was Mr. Osman Ali Khan, who was the last ruler of the princely state of Hyderabad. He lived between 1886 and 1967 and supposedly had a net worth of $230 billion, which is about 1.15 Jeffs or 2.3 million average Joes. Now Hyderabad was also one of the largest princely states in British India. Mr. Osman Ali Khan is considered to be the richest Indian to ever have existed in documented history. He had a personal collection of gold that was worth more than $100 million and owned over $400 million worth of jewels, including the famous Jacob's diamond, which is worth $95 million today. Now Khan basically used this $95 million diamond as a paperweight in his office, and he also supposedly owned more than 50 Rolls Royces. Now in at number 7 is Nikolai Alexandrovich Romanov, who lived between 1868 to 1918 and was the last emperor of all of Russia, who was reported to have had a net worth of $300 billion. Now this is roughly 1.5 Jeff Bezoses, or 3 million average Joes. Now he's also known as Nicholas the Bloody by his enemies, due to the massive loss of life Russia experienced under his leadership. Now Nicholas was eventually abdicated and was then killed in 1918, but during his reign, Russia experienced economic growth and the construction of the Trans-Siberian Railroad, which still remains the largest railway in the world. Now on to number 6. Now this is someone a lot of you would have heard about, especially if you're from America. And this person is John D Rockefeller. He lived between 1839 to 1937, and he was reported to have had a net worth of $341 billion, which is equivalent to 1.7 Jeffs or 3.41 million average Joes. Now he was considered as the wealthiest man of his time and one of the wealthiest men in history. Now the way in which Rockefeller was able to reign over a monopoly was basically due to the fact that his companies refined as much as 90% of America's oil. Now his main company, Standard Oil, was broken up in 1911 due to the Sherman Antitrust Act, but his legacy would be his family, whose lives continue today with around 200 descendants surviving and living today. And these descendants today have a net worth of probably about $10 billion. Number 5 is yet another American, Andrew Carnegie, who was alive between 1835 and 1919. Now Andrew was considered to be one of the first entrepreneurs where he built his fortune by building the Carnegie Steel Company, which was later sold to JP Morgan. But at the height of the Gilded Age in 1889, he published The Gospel of Wealth, where he outlined why he would be donating a bulk of his wealth, an estimated $372 billion, to philanthropy. And as he famously wrote, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced." Now this was basically because Carnegie believed that money was to be used to serve society, which meant with that $372 billion net worth, Andrew was worth essentially 1.86 Jeff Bezoses or 3.72 million average Joes. Now it was at this point in the article where things started to become a little bit hazy, as the GQ article mentioned some of the next people to have incalculable net worth. So naturally, I decided to Google to find an answer. So I rearranged the order to match what I found out. So in at number 4 is Manso Musa, the king of the Mali Empire, where he supposedly amassed the equivalent of $415 billion during his 25-year reign from 1312 to 1327. And this $415 billion pretty much equates to 2.075 Jeff Bezoses and 4.15 million average Joes. Now the Mali Empire annexed 24 cities, including Timbuktu, which had a kingdom that stretched for about 2,000 miles from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to modern-day Niger. And so with this much land came great resources, such as gold and salt. And during this reign, the Mali Empire accounted for almost half of the old world's gold, which all belonged to King Manso Musa. Now, in at third place was Augustus Caesar, the Roman emperor. Now, we all know Julius Caesar. Augustus was the adopted son of Julius, and he controlled the world's most powerful states, including Egypt, back when he was alive from 63 BC to 14 AD, which resulted in him having an equivalent net worth of $4.6 trillion, which is a staggering 23 Jeffs and 43 million average Joes. Now, in a second place was Akbar the First. He was also known as Akbar the Great, who was the emperor of India's Mughal industry, back when he was alive between 1542 to 1605. He lived a life of luxury lifestyle and conquered hundreds of thousands of square miles of territory and ruled over much of the Indian subcontinent. At his peak, he controlled around 25% of the world's GDP, which translates to $21 trillion. Now this fortune equates to 105 Jeff Bezoses and 210 million average Joes. And so this brings us over to number 1. Now this was Zhao Zu, who was the emperor of Shenzong of Song in China from 1067 to 1085. This was considered a time of peaceful prosperity and primary abundance, and he controlled around 30% of the global GDP, which is equivalent to $30 trillion today. But one thing to note was that the emperor wasn't all take. His policies helped to improve the lives of the poor. And was also seen as a forerunner for modern welfare. But essentially, his net worth would have made him equivalent to 150 Jeff Bezoses and 300 million average Joes. Now, when I had to Google some of these people to find out what their actual net worth was, I also came across some other people in history that were not on the GQ list, meaning that there are a few more who have managed to amass more than Jeff Bezos, like Genghis Khan. Back a long time ago, the way to amass wealth was to become king of land. Then it became part of the Industrial Revolution. Now it seems as though in order to amass wealth, you need to become the king of the internet or technology. So it's absolutely crazy to think that we're now at a tipping point of seeing many others accumulate this much wealth as the digital era begins to overtake the world, especially during a time when we're living in this unknown end of the corona pandemic, which will naturally increase the need for all digital life. But one thing that's for sure is being aware of this is going to open up many opportunities for us all to jump onto the bandwagon. Now recently I saw an interview from Marquez from MKBHD where he spoke to Mark Zuckerberg about his thoughts where the future is going. And Mark Zuckerberg seemed to think that it was all about virtual reality and augmented reality. But then what do you think is the next big thing to take the world by storm? Let me know in the comments down below. Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and click on the bell so you get notified when my next video comes out. And as always, don't forget to like the video, comment down below, and share with your friends and family. See you in the next video.